Hello everyone, Erin here. I cannot wait to share these completed layouts with you. Stampin' Up! Had their first ever album retreat. It was called Month by Month, and these pages turned out better than I even imagined. So let me show you how they designed the layouts, and I'll bring these back in as I'm showing you the differences on mine. So I got this kit, and of course they cut out everything for you. So you just get to sit down and create. And there was a virtual event you could watch live. Of course, the replay is still available. And like I said, I'm super excited with how these turned out. So let's go ahead. I'm going to bring these in one by one. And like I said, I'm super excited because they turned out really good. And I even learned a few things. I wanted to show you before I dug into this and started creating, I wanted to show you how it arrives because it's pretty amazing. They do all the work for you. It's different. You know, everything's cut and prepared and everything you need is right here in this one box, unless of course you want to switch things up and add from your stash. So we have page protectors for all of the layouts included. And then you get a couple exclusive stamp sets. So they are clear photopolymer stamps, which is so nice for creating background interest. And then there is some awesome font stamps in here. So that's a great size. You can use it for subtitles, all sorts of fun things. Journaling prompts. I like to make little wordy bits. And then you get some detailed stamps here. So this is the alpha, and then there's the coordinating numbers. And then it looks like some just basic shapes that you can do all sorts of things. There's banners. You can make super cute little like swag banners with these shapes. And then you have the what do we got here? So we have the days, summer, autumn, spring, winter, holiday, celebrate, life is so sweet. So we got all the basics here. And then we've got in review, highlights, love this. So very usable wordy bits. What matters most? And you got some scatter splatter stamps. So really cool stamp sets. And then here you have some florals and just some stars, sprigs, different things for creating random stamp backgrounds, or as you'll see, you know, when on the layouts, how those were used. So we've got some twine. Can't have enough of that in my craft room. And then these are photo place card holders. So if you don't have your photos and you want to put these together and add your photos later, you can make them with the photo place card holders. We have some bling to go along with this. They've included the neutral matte dots, and up underneath the fold here it's white. So you have white, black, kind of a basic beige, and that looks like pecan pie. So great neutral colors. They have included flip flaps, another craft room staple. So you have all the flip flaps that you need to create these interactive albums. And then they show or provide the covers for the stamp sets. So you can organize them and store them with your other stamp sets and have, you know, coordinating covers. I move all mine to envelopes I buy on Amazon anyway, so this is perfect. I don't like storing them in the plastic DVD style cases, so that keeps me from having to repurpose those DVD cases. So this one here is all of your titles. Now the theme of this particular album retreat is month by month. So your titles, these are paperboard shapes and they're black. So they're gonna go with everything, right? And you have the months. I know they don't look like much in here, but we've got January, March. I wanna keep them in here. I'd pop it out for you, but I just wanna keep it nice and tidy so everything is organized when I go to create. But I think you can see those. It's a beautiful scripty font. They're nice and large, bold titles. So really love that kind of year in review type, where you could do like highlights of the month. You can do all sorts of fun things with a theme like that, right? Kind of maybe your intro. If you scrapbook chronologically, you could do that have be the beginning of each month, and then whatever happened during that month would follow. Now these are resistible type, embossed resist kind of cardstock here. So they provided what you need. This one has like a sunburst pattern, and they'll resist the ink. So when you add your ink over the top of these, you'll get a two-toned effect. So there's this sunburst pattern, you have half sheet and a whole pattern, and then these are a beautiful leaf pattern. I don't know if you can see that. Let me pull it out of the plastic. So you get two of those, and it's a gorgeous leaf little leaves and sprigs there. There, you can see it there. Again, another ink resist type of page. And then you get some punch outs that you'll need for each of the kits or each of the layouts. So lots of different shapes you can just pop right out, and it makes it so simple to have everything you need to put those together. And then you get, I know there's a lot in here, right? So you get the die cut shapes that coordinate with the stamps. So I showed you the stamp shapes earlier. You can stamp right on these, so no die cutting. They've done that work for you. So there's a couple sheets in there. And then you get your project kits all bagged up in individual, sorted out for you. And like I said, they do all of the cutting. They've done a ton of prep work here for you. So they've got your base sheets, all of your, layering bits, all of your cardstock and pattern paper that you're going to need. And it's clearly labeled Project 1, Project 2. And with those titles, you can switch them up. So I believe this one is March, which has lovely spring colors, which will work very well for where I'm at in the world, but maybe it's different during March. So you can switch them around. If you want to use this for October, you totally can. So I am super excited. I've got a friend coming up to do this album retreat with me, and it's just going to be a great time. So they have a live event. You can watch live and create along with them. Or, of course, if that doesn't work out with the album retreats, it's available for replay, which some people like the replay because you can pause it if you're maybe working at a different speed, or if your cat decides he wants to cruise through and lay on your project and you have to stop everything to accommodate him. Ask me how I know. So yeah, there's all the projects in here. Ooh, this one looks cool. I love blue and orange together and browns. Yeah, that really appeals to me. This one's pretty too. Love those kind of fall colors, right? So I am super excited, and I cannot wait to show you the finished layouts. As I mentioned, I had a friend join me for album retreat. We worked on our layouts together, which was so much fun. I highly recommend it. Invite over your scrapping buddy, make some snacks, and just scrapbook to your heart's content and share memories and lots of good times. So this is January. Now this is kind of a month by month in review, but I did mine a little bit differently. Here's how I selected my photos. I wanted to use the actual title that they provided, which in this case is each month. So what I did, all my photos, or the majority of my photos, are on my iPad or my phone. They're connected. So I'm an Apple user. So what I did is I would go to years. And then in this case, I happened to select 2019. So click the year. And then I went to the actual month, January, and I searched each January in my camera roll until I found a set of photos that kind of caught my eye that would go along with the theme and feel of the papers. So in this case, I was kind of scrolling through here, and I was restoring my mom's wedding photos. That's why all of those are there. But I was going through and these caught my eye. So there's my mom, and she's wearing kind of this purpley tone and blue. That is literally how I settled on these photos. The colors worked, the time of the year worked, and it was that simple. Now, looking at this layout as is, I thought it was quite simple, but it worked out perfectly because it allowed me to bring in my own embellishments to support the photos I selected. So they have January in review, and then they put the year. I simply added a stamp. January adventure starts here. We went hiking for New Year's Day, and I've documented the story on the pocket here. They have added their journaling to a tag and put that in the pocket. So that is obviously an option, but I wanted to just make this a fixed. I didn't want like an interactive element. So I put the photos here, added my journaling here, and you'll notice I turned the page. So they had their green strip on the top and the bottom. I actually switch that so the green strip is on the outside edge here, and my white layer carried over at the same height. You can see that difference there. So very subtle difference. I kept the paper accents the same. I did cut them and drop them down a little bit more so you could see that. And in here, I did the same just so I had a little bit more of that showing. Actually, this one I didn't cut, but I dovetailed and put little decorative edges as to where those went from the green to the green. There's a lot of stamping on this layouts, which I think is quite fun. So really the only thing I added is the addition of a stamped title and then some pine sprigs, a little log round. The Winter Days is a stamp set from this album retreat. So that I just stamped on a little oval, popped that up, and then I added some trees from the Forever Forest, and then of course a geotag because we were hiking. So like I said, really very similar, just a turning of the page, and I absolutely love how this one turned out. So something different is I've never done a layout with strips of paper like this, and I quite like it. You can see how they have placed it in a manner that it carries your eye through, and I really love the way this one turned out. I wanted to show you where this stamp set came from. It's this one right here on Weekend Adventures. Adventure starts here, which is kind of great for a lot of things in life, right? If we're scrapbooking, it's often an adventure, whether we're traveling or having a staycation. I did do a little ink blending behind there, which they did in the original design, but I like how that highlights that and adds some interest to that white background. Here is my friend Bonnie's take on January. She's done a lot of similar, features with the pine trees because they were also hiking photos, but she's rotated the design just like I did and then added a lot more doodling. So here's like a doodle line across the edge and then some faux stitching on the pocket. And she's changed up this area a little bit, and I just think it's so cute. But one of the biggest differences is the title. So I did use the big January and then added to it. So I had this whole space filled. She's added some trees up top and then just done a collection of stamps. This is, of course, from the album retreat, but little stamps to fill in the space and some ink blending. And it's a super cute take. The album retreat title for February was February Faves, which inspired me to scrapbook this collection of photos. And I didn't have to go back very far. These are from February of 2025. And aside from this one, what I love about this idea is each of these single little snapshots probably would not have gotten scrapbooked on their own. Maybe it was just one random photo. And, I love them, but not something that I would scrapbook an entire page. But by adding some highlights from the month, everything gets a spot in the album. And I simply chose photos that caught my eye to go along with the color palette. So this one here, I probably would have scrapbooked because my son Clayton looks so handsome there with his friend Ruby. They were at their college rodeo fundraiser, and it was a big dinner and dance. And I just love this photo of them. And then I just have some snapshots. So there is my holiday decor. I don't go crazy for February. I just decorate up this little three-tiered shelf. So I took a picture of that. And then in February, my camellia bush blooms, and it's this stunning red. And then this one caught my eye. We were out to dinner, but Clayton's got red in his coat there. And then there's Brian and Dave. And the reason why this one caught my eye is I was actually making some Valentine thank you cards. You can see those there. So like I said, I probably would not have scrapbooked that or that, probably not even that one, but I'm so glad that they have a spot in the album. Now, I have done a layout like this before with paper strips, and that's in my Italy album. You've probably seen it. I've showed it in previous layouts, but I had fun with this color palette because it's not a color palette I tend to gravitate towards. So it was a fun challenge for me. And let me show you the differences. Now they have the word love. First of all, you'll notice their block of photos. They have 4 photos and they are landscape photos. Mine were all portraits. So I simply turned them to accommodate the portrait and did this linear design going all the way across. I made them all 3x4s. Here they have a 3x3 and then they're 3x4s that way. So you can see how easily I was able to switch this up. They have the word love. I went with sweet, and I could easily make more because they were stamps, right? So this is the included alpha stamp. And then there's this little element here. So while most of these were provided already die cut out, all I had to do was stamp one on some white paper and quickly fussy cut that out so I could have 5 rather than the 4 they provided. Another big difference, this one did have an interactive element. This little heart here was folded. It was 2 hearts folded to make like a little booklet, and they have a picture inside and they show you how to cut your page protector to access that opening little booklet, I decided to cut my heart in half because, again, I just didn't need the extra space. So rather than, utilize that or waste that second heart, I cut it in half. You can see there was a little fold here, so I camouflaged it underneath this embellishment. I tucked the other one here, and the fold is strategically under the F because it was just a little bit misshapen because it had a flat edge. So I liked how that made a bold, repeated embellishment going across the layout, and it worked out really well. I added a little strip journaling here, just talking about each of the photos. And again, a lot of stamping on these layouts. You can see the stamping there, the stamping of the hearts, the ink blending, the little scatter splatter stamp, and I quite like how that turned out. And then I did put my black little paperboard shape here on the side. They have theirs on the top, so I just changed that a little bit. Otherwise, I followed along pretty closely. So let me show you my friends. Bonnie has used the February layout to document a crab feed. So she has customized it by adding the word crab to the banner here instead of love. And then she's just added some crabs for embellishments. And then she did the same thing, cut that heart in half and used it across the layout. And then just added some stamps. So February, she used the title, put in crab feed, and then lots of cute little black splatter around there. And then again, just some stamps from her collection. So really very minimal, just the crab, changing up the word, using those provided alpha stamps. And the colors are perfect because, look at the orangey tones and pinks, of course, complement her photos beautifully. So I just love that variation. It doesn't have to be Valentine's at all. Here's just a crab feed date night, and I love it. March might be one of my favorites because I love the colors, but I absolutely love the photos. So every March is, branding season. It's springtime here. Everything is just new and it smells so good out because the sun is warming the soil. It's a wonderful time of the year here where I live. So I actually followed along pretty closely as far as the squares go. And this one was neat. And I'll definitely repeat this concept again because it's so good for scraps, right? You have a collection of just patchwork quilt, small rectangles and squares here, and they create this nice little background. You have a little white space going through, and the only difference I made was at the top here. So they have this green strip going all the way across, which I kept, but I added a layer of crumb cake underneath that just to give it a little bit more oomph. And I kept the flowers. You can see that they have the flowers here, but I added some coloring to mine to go with the yellow flowers in the field. You probably can't see them, but down in this area, there are tons of these tiny little yellow flowers that bloom in the spring. So I thought that this was quite perfect. I kept the title March, but I simply added Roundup using the alphabet Alamo dies. And then I added some horseshoes, a cowboy hat, and then just some other little Western embellishments. So really, that's, the only thing I added was the Western. And this is new to me, you guys. I was so excited. Somebody shared some artwork on one of the Stampin' Up, and I apologize, I can't remember her name, but I could not get over to the internet fast enough to search for this stamp. So I don't know when this came out from Stampin' Up, but I had to have it because I've got all the cowboy stamps. I use them quite a bit just because of my family's lifestyle. So I was pretty excited to find this and online used. So I added that to my collection. I couldn't wait to use it here. Little cowboy driving the cattle there. And then I stamped Life is Good in the Country. So you can see how easily you can customize these just by adding some little bits of ephemera. There's some ink blending in the background there. And then again, behind the word March, I did stamp a little bit of barbed wire. So their journaling is a bit different. And you'll notice I added some photos. So there's 2 photos and then journaling. I use that journaling spot for a third photo. And then over here, I've changed the photos just a bit because I didn't have a landscape. So I made this little grid here and then use this spot for my journaling. And they have done like a bullet journal style where they've just assigned a number to each picture. And then it's in the caption, the information behind the photo. Now, for Bonnie's March layout, her photos were not actually taken in March. So, again, she decided to omit the word March and go with a title using a stamp from her collection. And then she has switched up the shapes, the decorative pattern paper here, with a larger border in between. And then she split the difference rather than each one being contained to its own page. She's made it continuous. And then rather than put this little green strip across the top, as the layout suggested, she has made these decorative little banners and kind of tied it in with the embellishment cluster. She's added some wood bits from her stash. And then, of course, the Western stamps to bring in the theme to complement her photos. But I think it looks fabulous, and I love how this one turned out. It's just such a then little banner down here with the word together. It's a great use, again, for scraps. April is such a sweet layout, and it was really fun to add all of this stamping to create the pattern paper. Now, again, this one was interactive. It had this flip or this flap that flipped up for more photos and everything, but I didn't need that interactive element. So I can't say it enough. It's so fun to have it and have the option, and they walk you through it and teach you how to do it, but you can easily leave it out if you do not want to use it. So here is the pre-designed layout from Album Retreat. So I don't know if you can see how that is scored there. So this is the piece that flips up. You'll notice they have 3 photos going across the center here, kind of like my Valentine's layout, right? One big photo and then a series of a 3x4 portrait. So they're documenting some new baby, and you'll notice they've stamped raindrops on the back of that purpley tone paper and little tiny starburst on the yellow. I decided to go with hearts because I felt that that was more appropriate than the raindrops. And I wanted to go with a large sunburst on the background paper. And you'll notice I put my bright yellow on the outside. I actually got that idea from my friend Bonnie. She had done it first, and I quite liked it. So they have them both here on the left-hand side, which I think works, but I just liked the balance of the yellow being on the outside. So I did switch it up a little bit. But otherwise, I kept the clouds and I added to the title, they just had the word April, and I added a banner that says captured memories. So I quite like that. This is Hayden and Desiree. They were just taking some, this is my son, Hayden, and his girlfriend, Desiree. They were on the beach and took the opportunity to do a little photo shoot. But her dress is what caught my eye when I was looking for photos because of the purple tones and the flowers. I thought it was quite perfect for this set of papers here. So it was fun to do a little ink blending on the clouds. And again, I just did ink blending on the flowers here. They left theirs white, which you can totally do, but it's so easy to just take a blending brush and add just a soft hint of color. It's like the fastest way to color stamped flowers like that. And I used a blending brush on the bottom of the clouds too, but very sweet layout. My friend has used the April layout to document Mother's Day. So obviously Mother's Day for us here in the States is in May. So she didn't want to use the word April and opted to go with a Happy Mother's Day sentiment from a stamp. So really she's followed along. She's switched up the papers like I did. And the clouds, the flowers, everything again are from the collection. But she just added some Mother's Day specific stamps to bring in the theme of her photos. You can tell she was inspired by the colors in the pictures. They work really well with this collection. And of course, you know, nature tones and flowers has always worked very well for Mother's Day. So I thought that was a great way to use this super fun design. I know I said I loved March and March was a favorite, but I quite like May as well. I went very literal with my photos. We've got floral paper here, and lucky for me, my garden really comes alive in May. So I just chose a collection of photos to represent some blooms and some of the landscaping in my yard. Now, they have the word May in review. So what I've done is I've added to that. So I used May just like they did. And then I have magical moments from this snow day. I stamped that and then cut it apart, kind of fussy cut around it. So now we have magical May moments. And added this little die cut heart from my stash. These little ladybugs were left over from a card kit. And I thought, well, that's just too perfect. So I had to use those. Now, when I was unboxing, I talked about that emboss resist. You can see that here. It's a sunburst pattern. And you just take your little blending brush and you start in the center and radiate out to get this gradual fade. So where the paper is shiny, it resists the color, revealing that pattern. It's quite fun to play with, and I love the end result. Now, the biggest difference here is I've flipped the right-hand side. You'll notice they have the floral pattern on the left of each page. I've just flipped that around, so my little journaling section becomes the inner portion, and I have the floral on the outside edge. And this is what we call like bookending a layout. So they've done this very cute little design feature with all of the twine that's included, kind of like those boards with the crisscross, and you just tuck the photos in. It's cute. I just decided I wanted to leave that off. I added another photo and then just put my journaling here in the middle. And I have added some stamps. So the flowers, of course, come with the collection. And I just added some coloring. And I decided to add one more, and I colored it up in a darker color. And it's the only one like that. So I might go back and swap that out so it matches the rest. Or at the very least, add some darker flowers elsewhere. But the watering can and the trowel and the pots there are all from the Storybook Garden Patch. So I thought that was a perfect little addition. I always have random little snapshots from my garden, so it was nice to kind of bring them together. Some of these were at the beginning of May, some of them were at the end of May. But let me hold this up so you can see Dave there. Isn't he handsome? He's such a pretty boy. He loves to follow me around the garden. And then this is Little Sweet Toad. So we have a dogwood. It almost looks fake. This is a dogwood tree, and it blooms at the latter half of April and into May. And little Toad here climbed up and looked down at me. And it's like my friend said, it looks like she's in a cloud up in heaven looking down. I'm like, just so funny how she's up there like that. So the roses and the peonies are blooming, and I think they're just so pretty. And then there's another little shot with some Japanese maple and hostas and another little peony there with a little pathway. And yeah, just have so much fun. Water lily and irises. And then look at that beautiful butterfly. Just really fun to go around and take those little detail shots. So gardening is another favorite pastime along with scrapbooking. Bonnie's take on the May layout is too fun. So she has this adorable, fluffy little white poodle, like a little princess poodle, who is anything but a princess. You can see here, she's like a very light cream color, and she has just been living it up, getting dirty on their walk. So that's why she titled it May Madness, because it's just madness going on with this dog getting so crazy muddy. So she was inspired by, they're outside and walking. So we've got nature, and then the colors in the photo work quite well. Her journaling will go here. She'll do all her journaling when she gets back home. But this is really fun. So again, the flowers and these bits are all from the collection stamping. She has only added the poodle and then, a couple sentiments, and then of course altering the title. And that's all she had to do to customize this to support the story she wants to tell. For the month of June, I actually decided to follow along with the concept and do a month in review. So these photos are all from June of 24. And I'm very fond of this layout because, much like February, these are all random little snapshots, just little moments in time that probably would not have made the album because it's not a big story, but together they paint a picture of what life is like in just one little window month of my year. So each of these photos, so I did follow along very closely, and you can see here they have June. I did add in review on a little banner. And then I did switch up like they stamped on the pocket here. They have celebrate. I switched them up just a little bit. So I have added a caption just like they did. You can see they have their captions by each photo here. And I printed that out on Avery clear sticker paper. I did it all at once. Actually, for my whole album, I held off on the journaling and then went through at the very end and printed it out on one sheet. So I used the sticker paper quite a bit. But again, they're just little snapshots. I have a favorite walking path, and on this particular day, I just happened to catch the sun setting, and it was quite beautiful. These are two of this is Bonnie, actually, the one that came up to do the album retreat with me. She introduced me to scrapbooking, and this is our other longtime good friend, Jenny. We are high school buddies. So Bonnie was in town on this particular day, so we made sure to all get together. And it looks like fall color in the background, but it was just the light on the trees. And then my husband and I taking a walk. He's got a weight vest on there, trying to make it harder on him, which is great. I'm always like, load that weight vest up, slow you down, because I have a hard time keeping up. But this is a little blue jay. And, like I said, I wouldn't scrapbook this, but we rescue baby birds every summer from the cats or dogs or just whatever. So this was a little stellar jay I rescued and successfully released. My mom, she loves to come up and have afternoon tea, so I just took a picture of her. And then I had gone out for a ride, and afterwards I let Lola, my horse there, graze in the grass, and Flynn thought it was wonderful to take a little roll in the grass as well. Some peonies from my garden that I put in a little vase. And this one I absolutely love. So you'll notice I have this little stamped toad here from my stamp collection. But this photo just looks like a random snapshot of a cat booping a toad, right? But it's really significant because Toad here, my toad, my cat, was a bottle-fed baby. And I got her when she was just a day old. She was a rescue kitty. And with her coloring, and when she was little with her bottle-fed belly, it was this huge bloated belly, and I had her out and just kind of on the ground here walking around, and a toad hopped up to her. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she looks just like that toad. So that's why we named her Toad. And here she is many years later in the same spot, nose booping a toad. So I was so excited to capture the moment and wanted to document that there. The little stamped frog is from Charming Duck Pond. It's a layering stamp, and I absolutely love it when you have some random stamp in your collection, and it's perfect, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to have that perfect embellishment. This also is a great layout for scraps. You can see these are just strips, itty bitty strips of paper, and I love how they've utilized them. I will definitely be revisiting this concept again. Absolutely love how this one came together. Bonnie has documented her garden with the June layout. Lots of fun little snapshots here, very colorful, kind of like the produce in the garden there. So I feel like it works really well. And again, she's just added a few stamps from her collection. So the burst and the clouds are from Album Retreat. All she added here was some canning jars, a little bushel of apples, and then some produce from the Market Goodness stamp from Close to My Heart and a seed packet. Now, Bonnie has added a little faux stitching around her pocket. You can make that an actual pocket. And it's so cute because we hand cut these as directed, but you could use a tag die. Do you see how that's just a tag shape if you flip it over? So I absolutely love this idea, something I will repeat again utilizing my tags. Just turn it upside down and make a pocket. And then she's changed the photos to horizontal. She'll add her journaling here when she gets home, and it's a perfect garden layout. Really love the way that one came together. For July, I went with a 4th of July celebration. So I did add bits of red to this layout from my stash. So everything you see here came with this particular page layout, except for the red cardstock. I did add those two bits myself, and then the 4th and the of are from a stamp set from my collection. But the burst and all the other stars came with this retreat. So you can see there's the burst and there's the itty bitty stars there. There's an outline star and a smaller little detail star and the diagonal stripe star. And then I made the banner here with the word fun using the included alphabet die. So let me show you how I changed this up. So, and this was also inspired by my friend Bonnie, and I'll show you hers in just a moment. So you can see the pre-designed workshop here, or the layout. They have two horizontal photos. I had portrait photos. So I simply just changed the direction and made it work. I added a little bit of stamping to create my embellishments down here. I added summer days, which again, the summer days is from the workshop stamp or the album retreat stamp, and they have a banner here. So instead of putting the banner there, I moved it over here, and then I used the word July and just added the 4th of July. So I did the ink blending and I did the stamping just like they have suggested. Instead of adding the journaling there, I put one big focal photo. Now, on the opposite side, you can see how they have their photos. They're all portrait and they've made this pattern here. I went across the top and then that gave me all of this open room for another landscape photo. And I wanted to carry the stamping across. So they did. They put summer holiday. So you can see I switched that to summer days. And then I added the stamping so you can see it kind of goes here, up, and then down, and then up. So it kind of leads your eye through the layout. You can see they have used this pattern paper here to mat those photos. I simply just made them accent pieces to carry that pattern over from this side and just made it my own. Again, only adding the red cardstock. Really funny story here. So you'll notice we are all dressed in blue and white. I don't look good in red, so I rarely wear red. It just does not work with my hair. But anyway, we're all in blue and white. Even my in-laws here, my husband's barbecuing. We're celebrating 4th of July. And my mom shows up in a yellow t-shirt. And I'm like, Mom, yellow, really? Well, Mom always knows best, right? Because here we are a year later. This was last summer, last 4th of July. And there's yellow in this layout. And it was like Mom knew all along. She knew what she was doing, wearing that yellow shirt to a 4th of July celebration. So never doubt Mom's wisdom, right? Bonnie has used the July layout to document her youngest son, Parker, and his first car that he bought, a Camaro. So she's got stamping and die cuts. Parker and his Camaro. She opted to leave off the word July because it just didn't fit with her, photos and the story she's telling. And I love how she switched this up. So remember, there was a, pattern of just 3x4s, and that didn't work with her photos. So she's used the bits and pieces. And I was actually inspired by her layout to do a similar look with these pieces. And then her journaling will go right here in this open spot. And she's added some stamping that just really fit her memory of, documenting her son and his cool Camaro. And this is just a great alternative version. So really, just as long as you can see the colors in the photo went really well with this collection, which inspired her to use these paper bits with these photos. I absolutely love the August layout. This is so fun, and I caught the orange color in the kayak here when I was scrolling through all of my August photos. I did have to go back to 2019, so I started current with the most current year of that particular month. And I just kept going back until photos popped up. So again, went back to 2019 and the orange caught my eye and I thought, well, this is absolutely perfect. So when I bring in the layout from the album retreat, I did follow it along very closely. So they've got August and they have two little clouds underneath and then the circles here. So you got to do a lot of stamping on this particular layout because a lot of these were plain. So you use the little accent stamps to make these into pattern paper. And then we had the emboss resist. So on the May layout, we had half a sheet with the sunburst and I used yellow. Here we went with the orange color. And then the only thing I've added here are the embellishments and then to the title. So I have like a stamped alpha die and I stamped out the word fun. So August fun. And this is exactly the same. The paddles are from a close to my heart stamp from my stash. So I brought that in and then I added more clouds from Album Retreat. And then this Water is My Happy Place is from a close to my heart stamp from my stash. So you'll notice I did change this side up, not a whole lot, but I decided I didn't want to do the bullets, the number journaling. So I typed up my journaling and then I added a mat of Lost Lagoon. So I did add that cardstock and I did add this tab here. And then the stamping. So you'll see I went with a large sunburst. They have this small stamping, like a little plus sign. I wanted to go with the sunburst because it reminded me of sunshine. And then I added the arrow going through the center here. And the biggest difference is my photo placement. So they have 5 photos with flip flaps. I only had the 4 photos. So I simply just created a 4-block grid with 4x4s and 3x4s. And you can see a little stamping there on the top. I decided to flip it over and add that stamping on the bottom where you would see more of it. There are so many design elements on this page that inspired me and things that I will carry over onto other layouts and try again. I love this little circle border here. That could be used for a lot of fun, different things. And I was thinking of, they could be bubbles, they could be Christmas ornaments, they could be beach balls. I mean, really anything. Circles are such a great little shape. And I think that you could apply that idea and concept to a lot of different topics. So let's go ahead and see what Bonnie did for this particular layout. Now, Bonnie has switched things up just a bit. I've got this one in there because she has flip flaps on there. So she followed the design very closely, adding some, different colors here. And that's where she'll put her journaling. She did change up the title because these were not photos taken in July. They were just a different month. So she wanted to go with the word summer. But all of the other bits and pieces are from the album retreat. Look at this seal. He's so funny. Looks like he's waving. But to add more photos, and the flip flaps did come with you got flip flaps in album retreat. You can see she's used those there to add more of those 3x3 square photos. And then she'll just put little captions here with her journaling. But I absolutely love this layout. It's so colorful and fun. I love all the stamping. Really a neat design here. While looking through my camera roll in the month of September, my eye caught these photos because my shirt is kind of a purpley tone with flowers and then the blue. So we are riding in the backcountry. My friend Becky and I took the horses up to the mountains, and I do scrapbook a lot of photos like this. It's something we do often, and I am using kind of blues and greens and browns, like paper packs that you would think of for hiking or camping, with a lot of pine tree embellishment. So honestly, it was really fun to take photos like this and do something different. And I think it works quite well. I brought in just a little bit of Western embellishments too, but primarily used these are, the stamped images. I used the title September, and then I added in taking the scenic route, the triangles, and then life is so sweet. And this is from the album retreat. And then I did add this boots and bling and a cowgirl, or boots and bling, it's a cowgirl thing, to that square. And I thought that was pretty cute how that fit right up there. But I did kind of flip it around. Let me show you on the design here. They have no squares on this side and the large photo on the inside. So I just rotated that. And then they have a 3x4 right there. And then you can see how they've done their title. So I just changed it up. I didn't put that bar across the bottom, and I used a bigger photo. And then they only have the one photo here, but this is really cool because this is like an explosion box. It's interactive. And even though it didn't work for my layout, I still wanted to make it. So let me show you. It's really cool. They walked us through this step by step, and we made it exactly. So again, this would just go right on your layout, and you would cut your page protector and then have this really cool interactive element. So there's room for a little title down here that folds down. You'd put a 3x4 here, and then this folds up, and look at all this interactive fun. So a 3x4 photo here, a 3x3 photo here. You open these up, and then there's a square 4x4 here. You've got all of these cute little pockets that we stamped and created journaling lines. And you put your journaling on those tags. You could put pictures or more little journaling. And then there's a pocket we made here with a 3x3. Oops, this whole thing slides out. So lots of stamping. This is all with elements from the album retreat. But isn't that cool? This is really fun to make, and I just love how it folds up. So you just have all these little layers. So this one goes on top like that, and then like that, and then this. And again, that would sit right on your page, how you would see that there. Or, you can use this. This would be neat as a little mini album type thing to gift to people. But again, I didn't have enough photos to fill all this out, but they worked well this way, doing 2 3x4s and a 3x3. So I think that these designs, you can easily just kind of switch them up. But like I said, I wanted to learn how to make that because it's just too cool. Now, Bonnie used the September layout to make two single page layouts. So these will be in different albums. They're not related in any way. And I love the subtle changes she's made. So she did switch up and add in a few of her own paper bits to support her photo, the colors in her photo. And since she had used an alternative layout for her June, she could use this for this particular layout, even though it's September. Again, so easy to mix up those titles. So she added some stamping, Lazy Days of June, and then just some stamping here to create that kind of L-shaped bracket around her photo of her cute dog. She's laying in a hammock there, and her dog's in the hammock with her. So definitely a great title, Lazy Days of Summer. So she had all these colors in the towel there, so that's where she got the idea to bring in some scraps from her collection. Now, for the right hand page, she's created a single page or single photo layout documenting her older son and his girlfriend. And she stamped using Stays on ink right on the photos. So that is her title, stamped on the background. And check out this border stamp here with the rope, all stamps from her stash to help tell the story. But I love how she has used those to create two single pages. And again, she did substitute some of the scraps here with scraps from her own paper collection to make it work with the photo. But I absolutely love that. This border idea with the stamping is really cool. Now, here is the layout that has been designed for October, and it's got circles as the primary feature here. And Bonnie finished hers, and she did make some changes. I'll show you that here in a moment. I'm a slacker, and here is my October. And you're thinking, wait a minute, I want to see. I do have my photos picked out from an October several years back, and stay tuned because this upcoming Friday, I'm going to be sharing the process video for this, and it's going to look nothing like this. I'm challenging myself to do something completely different with these circles, and it's going to be a very fun challenge. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned to see what I use, just a few little bits and pieces included in this layout, and do something completely different. Now, I absolutely love what Bonnie has done with the layout that was designed for October. She has used this for August, and her son Parker was running for homecoming king. So this was like a picture of the buttons they made, and then she took pictures of the posters they made, and she's completely altered how the circles were and added a circle over here with the folded edge to tie in with this design, and then two 4x6 photos, and added this little cluster up here. And then of course, again, with the strips are at the top and bottom, she's done a decorative little element there. And then August, they call it HOCO for short for homecoming. August HOCO fun. And she's going to add her journaling right here. But what makes this super cool is she took the school colors and splattered the background to make her custom pattern paper to go with this design. So this one had a lot of white space, and this is a great way to add some interest without overwhelming the design. It's like a subtle pattern paper now. So she just took some gloss sprays, Dina Wakley gloss sprays, different things from her stash in the coordinating colors. And I think she used like something like this. The cheddar gloss spray, and these are really fun to create these backgrounds. You just put them in a splatter box and spray and have a good time, and it turned out so good. So definitely love how she has used the October design. I was challenging myself to use the provided month title for each of these layouts, and I absolutely could have. These photos were taken in November. However, I felt that it was just a little bit more scripty than I wanted. I could have absolutely have made it work. I thought about doing November project. So it would have, sat up here, and I could have just had November and then added the word project underneath it. But as you can see, these are very rugged and masculine, and I felt like this one just didn't have the right font. However, that's a great black paperboard neutral shape. I will absolutely be able to use that on another November page. So this is November, and the original layout design is very similar. Let me unplug that there. My laptop or iPad wants to die, but they have used an emboss resist paper. and I'll show you on Bonnie's layout, you can kind of see the peeking of those leaves from behind where they've added the ink blending. I decided not to use that. I'm going to save that for another project, but I absolutely went with all of the paper layers here. And rather than use that emboss resist background, I decided to go with this basic beige sheet to, be my background. Otherwise, I have followed along exactly. So you'll notice my photo placement is different over here. I have added 2 portrait style photos, lots of background stamping with the included stamps. And over here, I did keep the photos the same. I kept the tag cluster the same, but I beefed it up quite a bit. And they created a pocket. So this tag pulls out and they showed you how to put that together. I just decided to use a little journaling spot here. And then of course I brought in some stamps from my collection. Now this is pretty funny. So this is Time for the Celebration Mix and Match Ephemera Pack, which is in the 2025 annual catalog. And it's like seasonal randomness, right? And there's 2 sheets of each. They're fun. You can pop them out and use them for layouts or cards. But you can see there's a saw and a mustache and the hammer. Also, they all came from this. I'm thinking the mustache is cute, but how the heck am I ever going to use that? Well, I think that's looking pretty cool there. And both my husband and Hayden do have facial hair. So I just thought that was perfect. Oh, look, here comes David here. Yes, Dave, we love you. So the saw, and then I've added a little bit oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought because of Dave here. The trusty tool set was how I added the tape measure there. And you can see there's hammer and tools on here as well. If you didn't have the punch outs, you could use these shapes to add your accessories to this page. We're going to pause and take 5 seconds here to show Dave that he matters and he's important. Okay, Dave is happy for now. So I wanted to show you on my journaling block here, I did stamp the word nailed it. That's a stamp for my stash, but the actual notebook is from Just a Note. So you have these journaling lines here that you could just stamp right on your layout for handwriting, or like this. The hero of this particular set is the coordinating die set. So you can see that cuts out that cool torn notebook edge, and then you have some fun accessories to go along with it. So I love that. The tools in the little toolbox are from my stash. So just wanted to put those to good use. And then I wanted to show you, I have lots of little detail stamping. So I thought it'd be easier to see these on, not that one, this one. So you can see there's this little detail stamp, and then the arrow stamp, and then the splatter stamp. So I've used 3 of those to add interest and beef up these clusters. This is from my stash too, but you can see the splatter stamp, and then there's the decorative border strips there, more splatter there. And then I carried that over to this side here. So I stamped Love This. That's from the retreat stamps. And then I have this tab punch and just added November of 2024. So this is a roof structure they were building for my son. So that's my husband, Mike, and my son, Hayden there. So this was a big project to cover his little 5th wheel trailer there. So pouring concrete, doing some tractor work, all the different steps. And then this is him when it was finally ready to, they had poured the concrete and they were able to back his 5th wheel in. And there he is in the door and inside. So excited. So you can see just how versatile these collections are. We started out with kind of November, where they've documented some Thanksgiving with some fall leaves, and turned it into a very masculine layout here. The colors are what, even when I looked at this before I even cruised through looking for photos, I'm like, gosh, these are just so masculine. They would be perfect for my menfolk because these are just their colors, right? Now, one thing that's very common in the album retreat is creating your own background paper or pattern paper. So you can see the little tag there. They used a plus sign to decorate their tag. I wanted to make it theme specific. So I took this little nut and bolt. It's just these 3 little stamps. And then I kept rotating it around to fit them together with kind of a common margin so it looked intentional, and make my own pattern paper. And I absolutely love that little detail there. So very, very happy with how this one turned out. Let me show you Bonnie's. Here is Bonnie's take on the November design. So, with that emboss resist paper, she has used that and used a neutral tone brown ink and done a whole background just to make that a little bit more colorful and show that really beautiful leaf pattern. She's followed the sketch design closely, adding her own little touches, but instead of it being November, she's documenting a pasta night. So, I like how she's done the title and she's mixed die cuts with stamping on just a simple. She used one of the scraps from the album retreat to create that little banner, and then her journaling will go here. So they are documenting making homemade pasta. So it doesn't have to be a fall or Thanksgiving layout. You can, as long as the colors support your photos, you can easily, mix things up to make it work for you. But yeah, I definitely like how she's done a lot of ink blending over the background area there. December is another favorite. I absolutely love this layout design. It's one I will recreate again. It's very much my style. And I've made a few changes. I'll point those out here in just a moment. So we are decorating gingerbread houses. And I got that idea because in the example, that's what they are doing, decorating gingerbread houses. So I have kept, along with the design here, but a few changes. You'll notice this pattern paper, actually all three, the green, red, and pattern go clear to the top. I decided to drop down the green and the red to give a frame style layout. And then to make my pattern paper section longer, you can see it's the shortest one here. I cut in the section behind because you can't see that. So I cut it in half and that way I could extend it. It goes clear to the top. It's about 11 3/4 inches long. And I did that for both sides, camouflaging it behind the center elements there. And then I kept with the three photos. They have December holiday. I went with December and added tradition, which is a stamp set from my stash. Now, the gingerbread bits are a punch out set from Stampin' Up's Mix and Match ephemera from last year. And I thought, well, how perfect to add those. So you can see here they have this little stamped bit that looks like just a decorative element, and they've added some twine. So you can easily customize that and do something different like I've done here and adding gingerbread and candy. And then the little sprigs are part of this collection. So you can see those on the stamp set here. There's the leaf and the little berries. We've got the sprig. This is like a pine sprig and a little bare branch sprig. So I have simply stamped out a whole bunch of those and carried them across the layout. So I've tucked them around the title, much like they did here. And then I wanted to add more to my envelope. Now they've actually created a pocket and they have a whole bunch of stuff stacked in the pocket. Mine is kind of a faux pocket. So it gives the look of an envelope here. And I like the bit of twine that they added. All I did was add in more of those stamped images. And then again, the candy cane and the gingerbread are from the same punch out ephemera. So the tag here, you can see they have that same pecan pie color pattern paper. I simply used that piece and I cut it into a tag shape. I added a little grommet with my crocodile and I used the little pine sprig and did some tone on tone background stamping to carry that element through and give that some decorative interest. My piece of white paper I've used for journaling, I just typed that out and tucked it into the pocket where you can read the journaling, but it looks like it's kind of tilted and tucked in there. And then I added this little bit here. So they have just a little cluster down in the corner. I kind of beefed it up, added one of these decorative stamped embellishments here, and then the black. So you have just a bit of black peeking out on the side. I wanted more of that showing. So I layered the black over the top more so you can see it carrying all the way through the layout. And again, I really, really like this. Definitely one I will revisit. And this is really cute. This is probably my favorite little element on this page, along with the background stamping there. For December, Bonnie has also documented the gingerbread tradition, and she had a lot of photos, so she really had to switch things up, and it looks fabulous. So rather than dovetail the red and green pieces, she only dovetailed this centerpiece and left those longer, which gave her more room to add more photos. But she still wanted to carry this black and white leaf pattern over to this side. So she simply cut and made a tag there. And then this piece was left over. So she cut that into a tag just to kind of have those light colors draw your eye. And then, oops, she's got those just kind of set in there. Those are all the close-up shots of their fun gingerbread houses. And then one focal photo rather than the three on this left-hand side. And then she just took some pattern paper and cut them into some triangle trees with a triangle die, and then added a few little bits. We both did the word tradition here, just all using stamps and pattern paper. Absolutely love it. The idea of leaving these longer so she had more room rather than dovetailing them. That looks really good. It was certainly fun to put together 12 layouts in just a few days and put my own creative spin on each of the designs. Again, I'm so happy with how they turned out, and I really hope that you enjoyed seeing them and took away some fun design concepts. At the time of filming this, the month by month album retreat is still available, so I'll have that linked in the description box below. Of course, don't forget to hang out and stay tuned to see what I do with October. And just to sweeten the deal, if you do purchase a month by month album retreat from me, you get a free album. This is not from Stampin' Up. This is a gift from me. So when you purchase this, I will reach out to you and you can choose either a post-bound album or a D-ring album, whatever your preference is. And that really adds a lot of value to this already amazing kit. So again, you saw in the beginning, all the work is done for you, and the replay is available on Facebook. Now, Facebook only allows those videos to stay up for 30 days, but it is not too late because once they take it down, the videos will be available on YouTube. Plus, you get the instructions to print out and access to the exclusive Album Retreat Facebook group. Let me know which layout was your favorite. I'd love to hear it in the comment section below. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you very soon here on YouTube. Bye.